It affects our immune system, mental health, digestion, cardiovascular system, and it is responsible for either encouraging or decreasing our risk of certain diseases such as cancer. What is it? It's our gut, often referred to as our microbiome. And we're going to talk all about it today and how you can improve yours. Hello, and welcome to Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. I'm very excited to welcome our guest today. Georgia Saylor is a dietitian, nutritionist, and owner of Vitality Nutrition and Wellness Center in Linwood. Thank you so much for being here, Georgia.
You're welcome. I'm super excited to be here. I love this topic because so many of us.
You do. And over the past, I don't know, however many years recently, I think we've been really focused on this issue a lot more. People didn't realize how important our microbiome and gut health was in the past. So let's just talk a little bit about what it does and then get into, what we can do to improve it.
Okay. So basically, when we're talking about the gut, basically it's one big ecosystem. There's over 500 species of bacteria, which equates in our bodies about 3 pounds of weight in our body. So there's over 100 trillion microbial cells. And there's even, this is something most people don't even know, there's 100 times more bacteria DNA than human DNA that are residing in our gut. And if we looked at our gut and we spread it out, it's literally, and you would know this, Robin, it's the size of a tennis court. And so it's quite amazing. And so there's more and more, like you said, more and more research about how this human microbiome and how it interacts to create health or disease, or even weight gain or weight loss. It has an impact. So these inside of these bacteria, we can call them bacteria, we can call them microbes, we can call them bugs. So you might hear me interchanging it, because I really want people to understand that there's good bacteria or good bugs, and then there's bad bugs, right? And that, so we kind of understand that, right? We know that there's, spiders are good. They eat other bugs, right? But sometimes we still don't want to see them, but we still have that same impression in our body. But that is what the newest research is stating. We need to focus. Everybody knows, probiotics. I got to eat probiotics, right? I haven't really met one person that doesn't understand that at this stage. But a few years back, nobody really understood that. But basically what these bugs do is they control our digestion. They control our metabolism and inflammation. And like you said, risk of diseases like cancer. So it's really important to have a symbiotic relationship of these good and these bad bugs. We want them to interact. So
Can I just stop you real quick? You mentioned
sure.
Probiotics, and I really wanted to ask you a little bit about that because people know about probiotics, but I also want to talk about prebiotics. And I didn't mean to interrupt you. So if you want to finish your thought.
Yeah, so let me just go. Yeah, let me just finish this thought because then we can talk about what those are. So probiotics are basically those good bacteria. Okay, so that is what they are. Probiotics are the good bugs, the good bacteria. Okay, so we can also use that as a good microbe. Okay, that's what probiotics are. But what they do for us is they produce vitamins, beneficial nutrients, right? They produce molecules that sustain our ecosystem that we were talking about, to have that symbiotic relationship with ourselves. So the goal is balance of those good bacteria and those probiotics. Now, what you're asking about is those prebiotics, and those are super important, just as important as probiotics, right? So prebiotics are basically provide food for the probiotics. So where do we get that from? When we eat plant-based foods, so that when I say plant-based foods, it could be fruits, vegetables, herbs and spices, nuts and seeds, beans, all of those plant-based foods. The fiber that our bodies don't digest, that's where the prebiotics are summoned in. They start to digest that fiber, providing good balance for us. If we don't eat fiber-rich foods, that's where we have more of those bad bugs happening, and we don't have enough probiotics in there. And when we have too many bad bugs, that's where we're having more inflammation happening. So inflammation that happens inside of the gut is also happening throughout the body. You might, oh, I have a hurt shoulder, my knees are hurting. And note very quickly when people start to clean up their diet, they start to notice, oh, I'm not having as much inflammation. But inflammation can also cause things like leaky gut, and where people have other digestive
Sure.
issues.
Yeah, we hear about leaky gut a lot, but what exactly is that?
Okay, so in our gut, we have these like little villi that kind of stick together. And then sometimes what happens is they start to spread apart with like I said, that inflammation. And then there's openings. So undigested food particles that we're eating go out into the bloodstream. And then now our bodies are starting to fight them off, which could create autoimmune conditions. And of course, other things. You just don't, when you have leaky gut, you could possibly have brain fog, you're having bloating and diarrhea, constipation. I mean, it causes a lot, hormone imbalance, metabolic imbalance.
All of this related to our gut health, and the simple fix for this is eating healthier, right? I mean, that's basically what
Yeah.
it comes down to. It's just hard to believe.
Yeah. So, and when we talk about eating healthy, right, we really want to focus on eating a variety of foods. Okay. So let's I want to kind of, yeah. So we want to focus on a variety of color, and fiber rich foods. But we also want to, this is another really important facet that people really discount, is manage and control our stress. Believe it or not, inside of our stomach, we have the enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system has more nerves as the spinal column. In our digestive system, we produce 80% of those neurotransmitters. The serotonin is produced in our gut. So it's important in other ways to learn to manage our stress, get proper rest, exercise or move your body.
Yes.
Movement is super
Is that
important.
why it's called the second brain? And there's so many things that say, oh, I feel it in my gut, because there's truth to that, isn't there?
There is. So there's actually the vagus nerve that connects the brain to the stomach, right? And that's why it's called the second brain. However, this is something most people don't know. If we cut the vagus brain, the digestive system is brilliant enough to function on its own. So we really need to put more function. It's not just a piece of plumbing. We need to pay attention. What we put in our body really makes a difference. And like back to what we were talking about, I was talking about eating foods and we talked about probiotics. I just want to go back and circle back to
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Probiotics can be found in taking supplements, right? Easy, that can be something. But sometimes we might not take what our bodies need, right? That we might just take one we think is good, right? Because it was the cheapest one, right? But that's not necessarily always true. But we could get probiotics from eating yogurt or kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, green tea, pu'er tea, a nice fermented chocolate. There's all different kinds of ways that we can get those probiotics into our diet. Then there's also something to create food for those probiotics, because basically, if we're going to invest in doing this for our body, we want to make sure that these guys stay there. They're not just traveling and leaving, and then we need to keep doing it. We need to feed them with short chain fatty acids. And short chain fatty acids can come from resistant starches. A little bit of eating a green banana flour, taking our potato or rice and cooking it and cooling it. Those create those resistant starches. When we eat those, we're creating those short chain fatty acids that feed those good bacteria. And I know it can kind of sound a little bit complicated, but you just need to, like, maybe at the beginning of the week, make some, and it could really any grain. It could be oatmeal, quinoa, rice that we cook. Maybe we make a pot, and then throughout the week we heat it up a little bit or cool it. And that's
How
another
much of
benefit.
it do you need? Because people who are trying to cut their carbs are always worried about that kind of thing.
Yes,
But do
so
you need
like
a lot of it?
No, the microbiome doesn't care about quantity. It really cares about diversity. So like a quarter cup would be enough, or a half a cup. But that's the other thing, is we really, carbohydrates, when I talk about, those are good, right?
Yes.
Carbohydrates are good foods. Are But then those simple carbohydrates like candy and cookies and cake, right? Those are going to summon bad bugs into our body. And then when we have them, they create more and more food cravings. So really, we want to minimize our intake of those
So that's
simple
like a
carbohydrates.
double-edged sword. So there's two things about this, obviously eat more fruits, more vegetables, beans, and the starches as you're talking about, but also eliminate or at least highly decrease foods such as fried foods and sugary foods, things that can actually harm our microbiome. We're trying to make a step forward, and then we'd be taking two steps back.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Like we want to avoid sugars, like fried foods, because those are oxidized oils. We want to reduce or eliminate processed foods. They don't have any benefit. And then the other one is minimizing your alcohol intake. Alcohol does have an impact
We've just
on.
described the American diet. What are we going to do about that, Georgia? Burger, fries, and beer. That's Friday night dinner.
True. So, like if we could start to add more, have a salad with that, right? Have some broccoli, that'll be a start, right? It's little
Yes.
small changes.
So it does help, even if you're, having trouble, or, it's a little difficult to really eliminate all of that. It does help to add some of the healthy foods in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, microbiome doesn't care, but it starts to get a little bit of fiber, it's starting to get a little bit of food. We're going to start to have more balance into our gut or microbiome, however we want to refer to it.
Let me talk to you about antibiotics too. I mean, they're good for, we need them for certain things, but they've been overused over the years, and that can create a problem.
Yeah, so basically antibiotics, it's exactly what it was. It takes away good and it takes away bad bacteria, right?
Hmm.
So we're clean. So we really want to only use an antibiotic when it's absolutely necessary.
Yes, a lot of people, ask their doctors for them because I think that, sometimes some issues can just clear up on their own, or the antibiotics won't help on them, such as viruses, certain viruses. It's not going to work. So don't push your doctor. Those things, it's not, and doctors probably won't give it to you. And so I want to talk a little bit more about inflammation. I've known you for a while, and I always have this knee issue that is plaguing me, and I'm trying to stretch more and everything. But I do find when I clean it up a little bit over the holidays, I kind of overdid it. So I'm cleaning up my diet a bit, and my knee and my shoulder starting to feel better. And that could have something to do with it. I don't know, but it seems like it's helping. So that is a big issue as well, because so many people, take, go to ibuprofen, or they start taking, types of painkiller type of things when they have these problems, which we don't want to go down that road either.
Yeah, so inflammation does play a role, and gut inflammation will affect other parts of the body. And exactly, when we clean up our diet and we eat a variety of foods, and using antioxidant foods like those berries, and there's other things like pignogenol, and using antioxidants like turmeric, all of those things, ginger, different kinds of spices can decrease inflammation in the gut, which will once again provide better inflammation throughout the rest of the body.
And again, we don't need a lot of it. Just, I think even a couple tablespoons of some sauerkraut or a little bit of yogurt can do it, right? Every day.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the American. We have this mentality that we need a lot. No, if we look at other cultures that use these probiotics in their meals, right? Like Indians, for example, might put some pickles on their food, and the Japanese will use miso as a little. Koreans use a teeny bit of kimchi. If you go to and you eat, you see they're just putting a tablespoon or two. It's not a ton.
Of course, food is probably the best source, but do you think people should hedge their bets and take pre and probiotics as well? And if so, what should they look for?
Okay, so that's a really complicated question. So yes, a variety of like there's different probiotics if you're going to go buy one that has a variety. I would get one that has like 10 different, like the lactobacillus and the bifidus bacteria. Those would be the ones that I find that most people are lacking. The prebiotics, so you can get like different formulations, but you can also get that from eating a variety of foods. But like marshmallow root and slippery elm and dandelion and chamomile and peppermint oil and more, there's all different kinds. But if you really wanted to learn more that's for you, what your body would be best beneficial, I think doing a nice gut microbiome test. Like at Vitality, we do something called the gut zoomer, and that's like it's a stool test, and then we get a chance to actually read what's best for you, and then but like I said, you can go and find a well-rounded probiotic. Don't just get an acidophilus, or don't just get like a bifidus. Like get a well-rounded one, because you're gonna do much better with that.
But for
But there
people
are
who are experiencing real issues, that test sounds very interesting because you can really pinpoint what's needed for you. Talk to us a little bit about that and maybe some of your clients who have used it.
So I have seen so much success with that test because they have tried so many things. They've gone to so many GI doctors and trying to figure things out. But this is like literally individualized. So you're actually getting to see you. So it tests many different things, but it tests your digestive sufficiency. So whether or not you're lacking on your food enzymes, your enzymes to digest food, you get to see if you're having fat malabsorption. So you're able to see like, okay, what do I actually need to do to improve my digestion? You're able to see how much inflammation is in your gut and what you can do about that. Whether it's starting to, a lot of times I'll see people very lacking in one of the bacteria it's called Akkermansia. And Akkermansia can really be corrected by eating red foods. So then that will decrease inflammation. So even if somebody doesn't do the test, I a lot of times will say eat some cranberries or raspberries, some tart cherries, even if they're dried, right? That could be something that people can do. Then the test actually looks at your probiotics. You get to see the different bacteria and where there might be out of balance, where you might not have enough or where you might have too much. And yes, I have seen, like right now, I'm working with a client that was really sick after having COVID and
Oh,
caused many other things. And we are making, really great progress with him.
can you do this online as well? Can you talk, send someone the test, get the results and work with them online as well if they can't
Oh
make it
yeah.
in? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Whether or not you choose to do it through us at Vitality, there are other ones, other companies that do that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it can be 100% virtual.
Virtual. Yes, that's great. Well, I must live a boring life because to me that's so exciting. That's really like I want to know this about myself because it can fix so many things. I mean, it affects so much. I've talked about my knee, but even sleep issues or brain fog. I mean, there's so many things that,
Memory.
yes, everything. And just to know something like that, it just seems kind of important. It's unfortunate that it's not part of, when we get our annual blood tests. It would be great if we did that as well.
I
It seems
think
like
so,
it
but
should
I
be.
think there will be in the future when there's more and more research and they start to see. I mean, it'll save the medical establishment billions of dollars if we started to look at life like that. But this culture is not really looking at nutrition as an important facet either, even though it's contributing to 80% of lifestyle of diseases.
Absolutely. As well as you mentioned, our stress and our activity or lack thereof, how much physical
Hmm.
activity we get. But, in my mind, I've been doing this for, I don't know, over 30 years. And I just really feel we have so much control. There's some things we can't control. There's certain genes, there's our age, there's certain things that we cannot control, but there is a lot that we can control. Every bite that we put into our mouth, our decision whether to move our bodies or not move our bodies, our way of managing stress. I mean, everybody has stress, but there's ways to manage it. I mean, there's 1,000,001 apps now out there for stress management and meditation and yoga, whatever, or just doing something you love to do, finding time for yourself. There's so many different ways to find that. We just have to make the choices, don't you think?
I agree with you 100%. That, like, to me, like, that's just as important as putting good foods in our body, because if we're not doing satisfying work or satisfying activities, we're not as apt to put good foods in our body. It all goes together. Managing our stress, loving our day, cherishing our day makes a big difference. But I do want to just add something to what you said. We are individual and we have our own genetic makeup. Believe it or not, when our microbiome, the balance of that symbiosis is we can turn on the good benefits of the good DNA, so our DNA behaves really well. Right. And just like vice versa, when we're not putting good foods in our body and not having, when we have dysbiosis of our microbiome, that's when our genes turn off and express and they behave badly, so causing diseases. So believe it or not, like I said at the very early, our DNA makes a difference, but how we take care of our own microbiome.
That is really a good point. I spoke with a Harvard professor, a very intelligent man who actually was the first one to identify the first 3 genes in Alzheimer's disease. So this guy knows his stuff. And he
Wow.
actually talked about that. He said, there's only a little bit of, what we get from our family that you can't change. Certain DNA you cannot change, but there's a lot we can change just by the choices we make, the lifestyle we lead, what we put into our bodies, and just our overall health. And I found that to be fascinating, because there's some people that just think, oh, well, that was in my family and it's going to happen to me and there's nothing I can do about it. But they're finding that's not
Exactly.
true.
It's not, we need to be our own CEO of our own health, right? Like we really do.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to steal that, Georgia. CEO of
Okay.
our own health. I'll attribute it to you. So I'm sure you have lots of this information on your website, and you talk with people, you work with people one-on-one and in groups, virtually and in person. So where can people reach out to learn more?
So our website is vitalitynutritionandwellnesscenter.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I thought this was really interesting, a great overview of our gut health, what we can do to improve it, and some of the steps we can take to eliminate damaging it in the future. So thank you so much for joining us, Georgia.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And thank you for being with me today for Living Well with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep you updated on my most recent episode. Until I see you next time, keep living well.